Welcome to the Fret Friends Podcast, a guitar and music podcast here to instruct, inform, and showcase. Fret Friends is a podcast from AP Guitar, a music tuition business established in 2012, which provide lessons, workshops, and courses to students all over the world. So here's your host, Adam Picard.
If you are looking to understand the fretboard in its entirety, but you have previously not looked at the cage system, then I have a course for you. Perhaps you've heard of the cage system, perhaps you've already even studied it before, but how many times do we forget the things that we've previously learned on guitar? Like many guitarists, most of us do. So whether you know how the cage system works already or not, then this course could be for you. You can always check back in on it for quick reminders when you need some inspiration, for example. Not to mention, you get to hear the cage system story clearly and precisely from my point of view. You can almost start again in terms of how you view the fretboard. I also show you in practical terms how you can use it and how I use it. You develop the ability to play major scales, arpeggios, chords, triads fluently across the entire fretboard. By building a strong foundation in these essential elements, you not only improve your technical skills, but you also gain deeper insight into the structure of music. So if you are interested, you can find a link in the show notes of this podcast, or you can visit www.apguitar.co.uk. Thank you for allowing me to create that advert, and let's get stuck in with season 2, episode 1, how I made national news in a bad way. So first of all, I had some great feedback from my bonus episode, and I realized maybe I don't always do podcasts in terms of music theory and guitar. Maybe I do talk about myself, but only in a musical sense. I'm happy to share parts of my personal life, but as long as it's all kept to music, because that's why we're here, and that's why, if anyone's listening, you will be listening. So I'd like to take you back to the summer of 2014. If you think about what you were doing then, I was living on my own in a beautiful flat, and I have been full-time with AP Guitar for 1.5 years at that point, because I started it in April 2012, and then by the start of 2013 it became full-time. So it's still in the early stages, but it was full-time and life was good. I'm not going to lie to you about that. So regardless, I wake up on a Tuesday. Sun is shining, but my phone is ringing from an unknown number. This is clearly before we all walked around with our phones permanently on silent, because my phone actually rang. I don't even know what my ringtone is now. I know what my alarm is, and I know what a vibration feels like in my pocket or on my wrist. So anyway, it's 9 a.m. Tuesday morning. Too early for spam calls, so it is an unknown number. I think something's gone wrong. So I answer it, and a woman says, "Am I speaking with Adam Picard?" And I say, "Yes, speaking." I'm still half asleep. She says, "Okay, so you're in the news today. The Daily Telegraph have written something, and I'd like to interview you." And I'm like, "Oh, fuck, what has happened?" Because, I don't know, it's funny how it could have been something positive, and possibly if I was a bit younger, maybe I'd have got excited. But let's be honest, news is there to get us worked up. So it's not going to be something good. So clearly you'd think the worst. Maybe not, maybe just me. Sort of like if I'm driving in my car and there's a police car behind me, I'm a little better now. I used to imagine that they'd stop me and there'd be like a body in my boot or something that someone planted there. I'm gonna stop talking about that because I don't know where that's going. Anyway, I'm sure you have the exact same thoughts. Haha. She goes on to say, members of staff at a supermarket. Now, I'm not going to name the supermarket, but as I just looked, some of these articles are still online, so I don't think it would be a problem. But She goes on to say, some of the members of staff at a supermarket have been complaining about your music whilst they're working. And I was like, that's so cool. I was half asleep. I was smiling. I was like, yeah, okay. I'm in the news. My name is on all these things. And it's kind of funny. Anyway, she's like, do you have any comments to make? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm sorry that they feel that way. And I was wide awake by this point, but I was sort of like, well, what do you say to that? Do I have anything to say? Well, yeah, A, I'm sorry. B, I am pleased that is all they have to complain about, because, I mean, seriously, they must be living the dream, right? You're at work. You're not worried about paying your bills, state of the world, war, prices of food, shooting up through the roof. So fair enough, you're so angry at the music that's being played because you don't like it. So I hang up, shower, coffee, tell my mum, of course. I'm thinking I should probably Google this, so I did. There it was, Daily Telegraph, The Guardian, and a couple of other newspapers. I can't remember which one broke the story. I'm going to say broke the story really lightly. I mean, is it a story? Anyway, I'm like, what is happening? I start to feel a little odd. I'm like, I think I even listened back to some of my music. I mean, I know what my music sounds like, but I'm sort of thinking, is it that bad? Am I that deluded? The reason it was there is because I signed a licensing deal, which meant that my music was put into shops and restaurants all around the world. So I had some friends in Australia, because a few years before that, I'd spent a year to a year and a half there, and I was getting messages from them being like, "Oh, I just heard it in what's that coffee chain? Gloria Jeans or something. Oh, I just heard it in Gloria Jeans." And I'm like, mate, that is so cool. And like, people are in Ireland, people are on holiday and sending me videos of my... Anyway, so this is why it was there. But I was doubting myself, and I was like, well, maybe it's like, it can't be like X Factor where, when someone's really bad, they still kind of give them the limelight. But no, this is for people walking around shops buying their dinner, or they're sitting in restaurants eating their dinner. So as I say, it was wicked. I had a licensing deal. And for the first time, I was making money where every 3 months I'd get paid by not actually having to turn up to work. I'd worked hard for it, don't get me wrong, and I'd written about 50 songs, probably more, and I was continuing to churn them out. Anyway, I listened to my music and I was like, okay, well, it's all right. Like, mainly it's good. Anyway, so at 11 a.m., the phone rings again, same morning. Hi, it's I can't remember the name. Let's just say Oliver. Hi, it's Oliver calling from BBC Radio 2 Jeremy Vine show. Can you speak? And I'm like, yeah, baby, let's go. And he's like, Oliver is like, we'd like you to come into the BBC studios this afternoon to be interviewed live by Jeremy Vine on his show, and bring your guitar because you're going to play a song too. BBC Radio 2, who had called me as a station alone, has a weekly audience of 12.6 million listeners. That's not the whole of BBC. That's not even any other stations. That is this station. So I got my guitar ready and brushed my long hair. I had long hair at the time, brushed my hair. I don't even know if I had a brush, but I must have tried to get ready somehow. So yeah, let's go. I'm jumping up and down, basically, forgetting the reason why all of this is actually happening, which is because my music is so bad. But who cares at this point? So I get the train. That happens. I'm sitting there in the BBC studios. I'm casually playing Elton John's piano as I'm waiting to walk into the studio. And it's all a bit of a blur, really. I can't really remember anything that I was asked, although I did record it somewhere afterwards. But I'm still too scared to listen back 11 years later. But I remember it being really fast. I don't know how long it was, but I did play a song. I maybe even played 2 songs, but I just remember it being really fast. I didn't warm up or anything. I was just in a blur. I didn't really know what was happening, but this spike continued into the next day when BBC Radio 1, which is equally as popular, but it's for a younger audience. I think it's probably up to 25 or up to 30-year-olds. They called me and said, I'm going to be in their Newsbeat section of the show today, which is their news, right? And they'd be playing a clip of one of my songs, and they needed some sound bites from an interview. So I interviewed there as well, and I said like the same sort of things. You know, I'm really sorry that they feel this way, but it's worked out well for me. And anyway, yesterday when I was having to think about what I was going to talk about on this, I did look back online, as I mentioned earlier, and I found some of the news articles that are still there. So I thought I'd read a little bit to you. So these are two comments that were made by staff in this supermarket. I think I need to invest in a pair of earplugs for my next shift. This music is so bad. So with 3 O's. And another one, which is it's just lovely. Even customers were commenting on it. I'd rather not listen to anything. It's actually soul destroying. And then there's stuff all about me. They didn't name, because they were obviously not just playing only my music, but I'm the only person that's named in every one of these things. And I'm the only one that did any of these interviews or anything. I don't know if that's good or bad, but there's stuff about me. There's got my full name, my age, even the town that I lived. And I'm not sure they needed to go that far, but I'm sure it gives it like a personal touch for their benefit. And then there's a bit about me that I said, and it says, the 25-year-old said, I feel privileged to have the licensing deal that I do. I want to get my music out there. If it's getting airplay in shops alongside other artists, then that makes no difference to me. And then it says, he added, I feel a bit sad that the staff members had to go this far. I didn't mean to offend anyone with the quality of my songwriting, but it's worked out pretty well for me playing on the Jeremy Vine show yesterday. So you could see how it kind of went. And I mean, come on, I have to say this at some point in this episode. All publicity is good publicity, right? Anyway, I'm going to wrap that up there. I've got lots of ideas, little mini stories. None of these are going to be long, bedtime stories, hopefully, but they're just going to be mini stories about music-related things that have happened to me over the years. There's been quite a few little funny things, so I'm looking forward to sharing them with you. And then I think I said this after the last episode, but maybe the next episode we'll get back to some music theory bits and bobs. So, yeah, I have lots more to say in this season. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give it a rating and share it as well if you don't mind. And I will see you at the next one.